There we go. All right. I should do it. Hope my mic is correct. Hello. Hello, hello. And hello to the people here and the people who will watch this on VOD. So, let's start, because we got some stuff to talk about tonight, and we're moving to what I would call AeonShift Phase 2. It's not like as expensive and as crazy as Phase 1, but yeah. So, as usual, this is live, and that's going to be available on VOD later on. So let me just check my mic levels on the live stream. I just want to make sure. Sure, it's good. All right. So I'm going to explain very fast what changes for AeonShift today. If some of you really want to understand how we went to these conclusions and why we took those choices, you can stay a little longer, and if there's possibly questions, I think it's going to be pretty straightforward, but last time there were like 50 or 20 questions. I think there'll be less this time, but if you got questions, I'm all in. So, my name is William, DocFX, whatever you want to call it. I'm your front interface for the AeonShift team, and tonight, because it's night where I am, night's falling right now outside, we're going to talk to Phase 2 on AeonShift, which is about adding financial constraints, which means considering people's wallets when playing Magic the Gathering with AeonShift. So the changes are really easy to understand. So first and last, AeonShift now supports a new third playing option with financial constraints. So you can play with original unaltered cards only, original cards altered or not, and you can play with original unaltered cards and financial constraints. So you can play AeonShift regardless of which format you choose, 3 different ways. So this will strongly, really limitate the money value of your decks and how much you gotta spend to play. And again, that makes the game become even more accessible to everyone. That's it. That's all you need to know for tonight. But you're gonna ask me, isn't there a little more about it? Yeah, the calculator makes it transparent. So in other words, it's just an option that you pick on a calculator and you choose whether you want to use it or not. This is a reminder for our comprehensive rules, which I'm going to publish right after this talk. The financial money constraints are expressed as this. We, like I said, support 3 different financial playing constraints, which means the first one is 0 constraint, like you only play with original cards, no proxies, nothing. Then you play with whatever you want as a mix of original and proxies, and the number, the amount, the conditions is up to you. And if this is played on a tournament, it's up to the tournament organizer. So whoever's in charge decides, okay? And what we're adding tonight is the last option, the third option, saying playing with original cards exactly as printed again, and applying a budget constraint, which is the same exact option as the first one, except the calculator will change the points for you. All right? So what does it mean? If you head up right now to the calculator, this option has been unlocked. Remember, this is the roadmap for AeonShift. We plan to unlock all of these one day, maybe, possibly, we hope. And we unlock tonight the apply financial constraints checkbox. So you go to the calculator, you click on customize your format. This expands this format customization and playing options. You just check yes, again, your announcement and stuff, and then there you go. So what changes is the points of your card. They just go skyrocketing to the roof because yes, we apply strong financial constraints. So what's going to happen now is all the cards remain legal, but completely impossible to include, even if you make the largest and broadest financial constraints. Hey Baju, yes, the stream is only about this financial constraint part. So if you think that's not something you're interested in, well, phase 2 is not for you. Stay tuned for phase 3 because I won't speak about it tonight, but we're gonna have something as interesting and challenging as phase 1 for probably, fingers crossed, the next announcement in July. So yeah, back to the topic. If you just choose this here, you just pick whether you like it or not. So if you have selected no, for example, here I use my deck list of whatever, what is it? I don't know. It's just a random list I picked of Dual Commander, and the deck was legal. But if I choose to apply financial constraints, my deck contained a lot of expensive cards like dual lands. I think it was an Animor deck, so there's Earthcraft, there is Gaia's Cradle, so many expensive cards. And as you can see, you're booming out of your budget, which means you're going to have to make choices, and the choice is made card by card. So whatever you do is you lower your budget, as you are used to do, until it becomes legal, except the points change for you. And the points change on the financial value and the strategic value, all mixed, mashed up together with a special formula, and the result is it does not go below the strategic value that you already know, so the points do not go down, the points only go up. It's easy. So whatever list is legal with financial constraints is 100% legal without financial constraints, which is exactly what you would expect it to be. So it's available right now on the calculator, and I'm going to push the final points and updates for April and switch into May as I'm finishing this talk with you. All right. So just a reminder, we had 3 different ways of playing. So we recommend allowing proxies if you don't use financial constraints, because all the cards are legal, which means some of them are extremely overpriced. And actually, most of the Magic cards right now are overpriced for many people in the world. So yeah, as we're going to see in the expanded phase on this talk. No, it's not a joke, mate. I swear. It was announced like this, it was announced in the rules, and it was planned to be like that. So, yeah, you basically got the all of the rules you need right now to play AeonShift. What we're going to do now is add this, and then we're going to add more formats in short. So, yeah, so remember, before you think about anything about proxies and stuff, don't forget to read what Wizards of the Coast wrote themselves, notably this announcement from 2016, which is, I think, one of the latest they added on the topic. All right, so a couple explanations for those of you who want to speak about those financial constraints in details. If you don't really need more, you can just leave right now. So the idea was pretty simple. The idea was looking at the world through some financial and human, actually economical and human friendly glasses, so that the economical state of things would be taken into account. And why? First of all things, remember, this is the number of newly printed cards by Wizards of the Coast, Magic cards, every year since Magic was born 33 years ago. As you can see, since, let's just say 2016, 2015, it's approximately doubled. That's just the first print, okay? It's not reprints. Which means you have twice as many cards being printed every year. Thing is, you still need to buy the older ones, especially if you start playing Magic like recently, like during the last 5 years. You need to catch up on the good rares. Some of them are not yet reprinted, which means they're going to be expensive. Some of them are never going to be reprinted, which means they potentially become super expensive. And you still need to buy whatever comes freshly every single not month, it's just worse than a month. Actually, there's an average of a new set of cards every 10 to 15 days. So that's the state of things. Even if you think about, commanders, legendary creatures, there are so many getting printed right now, which means you can completely have to change all your deck just because a new command zone is printed, right? Which means, since Commander was created back in 2011, actually it was 22, but let's just say 2011 for the first packs and the announcements, as you can see, it's just been multiplied by 10 to 20. So really, you cannot trust the future on telling you that you're not going to buy anything from Wizards. You're not going to have to, because as you know, with power creep and stuff like that, it's not just like they reprinted bad cards. No, they don't. They're reprinting crazy cards. So for instance, there were 51 legendary creatures printed in 2016 and 484 in 2025, all of them being legal in AeonShift, which makes a lot more. Like, yeah, it's just 9 times more. So yeah. A couple facts as reminders, because you need to think beyond your own financial capacities. We are now over 50 million players worldwide on Magic, probably 16 million right now. The pressure, like I was telling you, on getting the latest cards has increased. By the way, I'm writing a lot of text on the slides so that the people who would have hearing impairment or couldn't understand my bad English accent could read the slides. Also, the reprints have, unfortunately had erased the necessity of investing on most of the old cards, but it's not really down to zero, because some reprints just limited the value, and then it goes down to a minimal value, and some cards haven't been reprinted yet, so yeah. Also, the number of SKUs, the stock knowledge unit, that whatever the unique products per year, which means whatever is a unique new barcode, if you want, the EAN, yeah, you scan the barcode on the back, or the products or QR code, whatever. It went from a couple 10s, so let's just say 50, to more than 1,000 per year right now. So this is crazy, the number of products that is out for sale every year. And as we said during the presentation, these proxies things, they just have invaded all countries from the highest income to the lowest income, and clearly they're winning. Number of tournaments being reported that use proxies or just say proxy friendly is increasing, and it's already, I have no idea, but probably between something like between a third and 50% of all the cards of all tournaments. Sorry. So just not gonna go into some macroeconomics, but this is the world growth of GDP. So yes, GDP is a debatable thing. It's not the best index in the world for those of you who are into economics, but in case you would wonder, since the Second World War, we have been measuring with a stable formula how GDP evolves, and this is the growth of the GDP. So above 0 means growth, and below 0 means a recession. Okay, so in case you have wondered, the resources worldwide are limited, and this translates into economics being limited, and like the planet is only limited in size. It doesn't go beyond 6,370 kilometers in radius. So unfortunately, planet is limited, economy is limited, and we cannot have an infinite growth. So if you think of maths, the derivative of the second derivative is negative, which means it's growing less and less. So the world right now is going towards recession, and it will not stop. So you have less and less money, and the problem is the capitalistic companies, all of them, including Hasbro, whatever, keep using the same exact plans, which is not only blow up competition, but also they have the plans of 10 to 50 growth at the end of a year. And as you know, what they do when it doesn't match to save the sea level, they just fire people. And not gonna tell you, but the companies you like, the love, they have done that in the past. I suggest you just Google for it, and you will see how many thousands of people were fired from the games company. So yeah, there's a duality. And this, by the way, this second graph here is price inflation index. So it's the difference from one period, 1 year here, to another, to the difference of prices. So 0 or less is crazy good. It means things get less and less pricey, and more than 0 means you have to spend more money to buy the same things. So as you can see, inflation has never ever even went down to 0. So yeah, it's not you. Everything is getting more expensive. So the paradox between, on one side, players having less and less available capital and income, you, me, whoever you want it to be, and on the other side, license owners with increased costs and growing annual expectations create a divide that is widening day by day between what you can afford and what they want you to pay. So the good things about that is that they are actually factually observing the secondary markets in search for, distilled single shots in profitable reprints. So as you know, most of the most expensive cards have already been reprinted once, twice, and on a recurring basis, like every year or two, they just make new reprints of some very old cards sometimes, which is good, but it's tempered, right? It's not like they just reprint everything all the time. And there's no print on demand from customers with drop shipping to you. So also the power creep, actually, which looks like the worst thing in Magic in every single game, actually eliminate diversity, which means the more there is power creep, the more the older cards become just outdated and staled. So you won't buy them. So that's a good thing, because if everything was balanced, you would need a whole diversity of things. And unfortunately, this is something we're trying to achieve by retro-balancing everything, so that we cannot anti-power creep everything, but we can just limitate how the game is going crazy right now, which is the core reason why we created AeonShift in the first place. So Negative aspect is that new product channels have damaged accessibility. I'm not going to name them all, but the secret layer, the expansion of some cards and stuff that people only invest on, like collector boosters and stuff like that. It's just like the universe and beyond. Everything is just going sideways in all directions, and it's really, really impossible right now to just buy one box of every single product that is out. If you used to do that like 10 years ago with stable prices, it would cost you probably 5 to 6 to 7 to 10 times less, 10 less money than if you wanted to buy all the products just once from, like, let's just say 2026. So the exponentiality in prints and power creates a perpetual search for the latest cards, and it's just not a matter of power. That is already phase 1 of AeonShift. Phase 2 is also a problem of money and investments, because you have to buy more and more of the new cards that go out more and more as well. So that's a double take against your wallet. So this is an old slide that I have taken from one of my 2023 presentation from the Dual Commander Committee. You could make a pause on the screen. I'm not going to read it, but it's basically a tracking of how prices have been. I used only United States dollar for reference because Magic started with United States only, so it's hard to make an equivalent of monies and currencies that would just not even exist in 1993. So just to remind you how crazy things were, how unpredictable Wizards of the Coast has been on prices, and how you've been watching the booster prices, the collector's editions, the 30th anniversary joke edition, whatever you want it to be, So in short, it's been increasing like crazy, and it's also been increasing faster than inflation. So right now, playing Magic is getting just a little harder, and getting the products for yourself is really harder now. But it's harder than it's never been, and it's probably going to be even worse in 2027, 2028, and so on. So yeah, not the coolest things. So the question is, can expensiveness be fixed on cards? Can overinvestment and the impossibility for some players to buy all the cards they want to play be fixed? Not gonna lie, it's hard. It's hard because pricing is not easy. First of all, the editors, including Wizards of the Coast, do everything to extract the maximum profit for players. So really, you cannot expect from them any solution to be provided to price the things correctly, as it is fully antagonistic against their profit surge. So they will never tell you how much the cards are worth. They sometimes tell you with an MSRP how much you should pay for the products, and not even in every country in the world. So even the original brand new products don't have a fixed price. And some of them do, like if you buy on Secret Lair, those are probably the most stable original price brand new, but secondary market is a whole different thing. So yeah, the players who play Magic have tried and found multiple ideas to limitate that pricing expensiveness on decks. So they have first tried the Rule Zero, the home rules, which is what you use in Commander, EDH, whatever, where you tell your friends and people you play with, all right, no cards beyond this. Like, all right, you want to play Tabernacle, but you just it's not cool, You're playing with people with pre-constructed decks, so could you make an effort, something like that. So that's the be nice, there's nothing to win rule. Then we can have ban cards for strategic or economic reasons, which is what we have done with Dual Commander for years. But as you understand now, this is not effective anymore. And it stopped all of this efficiency. Then you can have a minimum rarity check or a maximum rarity check, depending on how you want it to be. So if you think of pauper and peasant, for instance, that means you tie the expensiveness of cards with its rarity, which is kind of clever because the number of times you will get just the uncommons and commons is just crazy, and the basic lands, of course, compared to what you would get for rares and mythic rares. So somehow this is succeeding, but to be frank, the problem is it cuts most of the most interesting cards, because what defines a rare in Magic, or more, rare or mythic rare, is that it has a very unique ability that you probably didn't see anywhere else, or a set of ability that you don't see on any other card, which means each rare or more card is much more interesting and challenging than all of the uncommons and commons. Also, you can just check the price, which is what Penny Dreadful has been doing on Magic Online for years now, decades, I think. Also, you can have proxies, so you can have the self-local appreciation of whatever you think is too expensive. So you can say, hey, you got one proxy for each deck, or four copies for proxies because you use a quadruple format, or full proxy, whatever. So this is now done with all countries. We've got reports from like whatever country, Brazil, Germany, France, England, Japan, United States, everywhere is playing with proxies right now. And then there have been some interesting attempts by some people to have a deck-wise legality, an overlay on top of the base format based on the price of your deck in total, with a reference shop and some homemade rules to just stabilize the price. You could see the DC, how I say so in Portuguese, cinquemento. I don't remember how to say 500 in Brazil, sorry, but it's about playing with 500 real, which is the Brazilian currency, and they use a single marketplace, which is, I don't remember. Liga Magic is the one who made the tournaments, and I fail to remember which one they use, but they use one store as a reference for the card prices. You got the budgetcommander.de, who's a bunch of German guys who try to set up the rules for Budget Commander. You got the $100 Commander United States, and you can find many of these. So that's kind of clever too. It's hard to do, and it's already what we do with the strategic points for AeonShift. And then you can have this side possibility of Magic Arena, which is you just replace paper with digital, which means you don't have a physical copy, you can create unlimited copies, and you can even have people unlock the copies. So Magic Arena has a unique system where you can unlock the cards one by one. Magic Online uses kind of the same, but you have to generate a product first, so someone has to buy the product first. That's it. So thing is, the game PCs you use, they don't have an official price. They have a market, which means nothing is stable, nothing is trustable, and you cannot know the value of the card. So first of all, a single card cannot be a stock knowledge unit. Why? Because they have multiple variants and constraints. First of all, the major blocking thing is where you are on Earth. Because where you are on Earth defines if you can have magic cards or not. In your country, if it's popular or not, how many people play it, what percent of the population, how far you have to travel to find magic cards and people to trade, to buy, whatever. Then also, the available languages, they change depending on where you are. Like if there's a cheaper language, for instance, some European language are cheaper, but you want to buy them, you can buy them in Europe, but as soon as you move away from Europe, it becomes really harder to get a grip on these. So also there's currency conversions, which means if your country is currently lower in GDP, and the stock exchange is not in your favor, you're going to struggle a lot, because it means the money will be converted in your local currency, but once you start paying the price, you realize you're paying the price for something that is much, much more worth of daily rate of work, of whatever, and it becomes less accessible to you. So also there's the language. You have to be able to read it. Some people cannot read, don't want to read multiple cards in different language, because if you don't read or speak the language, you're dead, and you're supposed to ask the judge, go on your smartphone, whatever, to check the card, what it does. You're probably not going to trust your opponent. That's going to be hard. So that changes a lot of the constraints when you want to play in graded cards, because you cannot argue with people, hey, you know what, this version in this language is much cheaper, because they say, first of all, there's none in my country, and second, it's still too expensive for me, and third, I cannot read it. So yeah, that's much more complex than what it seems. Also, there is the nightmare, the absolute nightmare of grading and state, which means how you're gonna grade and how you're gonna appreciate the card. It's literally impossible. Nobody on earth agrees on that. 0% on earth agrees with everyone else. That's crazy. So, and there's the decoration. You got the foil, non-foil, the black, green. Some even borders right now are golden bordered and legal. That's weird. For some reason, I just say some versions are legal or not, like the gold bordered versions are not legal in AeonShift. So then you have the problem of how many copies were printed, because some cards range from 1 to 1,000 in terms of quantities. So you cannot just say that this rare is a rare and a problem or not, because even if it's played a lot, it's still a $2 or $3 rare, while this other card that is less played has been printed 10 to 100 times less, not reprinted for a while, and it's worth 10 times more, despite being the worst rare, a strictly lower version of the same rare. So there's no argument in that. The reprints are chaotic. They're, like we said, going the good direction, so you can get more cards that were printed in the past, but you cannot rely on that. And also, the market relies on absolutely arbitrary values, like whatever's played at the Pro Tour, what the people play, the new combinations with cards that create spike values, skyrocketing, the global bull or bear market, whatever you want to call it. It goes all the way, all the time, and it's moving. It's moving all the time. You cannot trust a card. Basically, when you buy a Magic card, you don't know what you paid for. So, even after finding a set of constraints to define a consensual version like English, non-foil, non-altered, basic version, no special treatment, whatever you want it to be, EX plus based on the card value of this shop, you still need to find sources of truth for prices, which means who is going to tell you the source of price? Because if you don't have the websites that you use right now, you're blind. You have no idea how much a card is worth. Before that, we used to have paper magazines, and before that, we had nothing. You would trade your Black Lotus for whatever you wanted to trade it. So the secondary market is the only possibility when there's no drop shipping for individual game species, which we saw is the case of Magic. And secondary markets, they're either geographically limited or based on the country of origin of sellers, which means it's hard to say that you could get this card to this person on this market for this reason. It's not going to be possible. So even though all these things seem to converge when you look from distance, they don't often tie in. So yeah, it's just impossible. Even when you have a super high activity marketplace like eBay or Card Market or TCG Player, it's not enough. You cannot know the price of 100% of the cards, and if you cannot know the price of 100% of the cards, you cannot base your rules on that. And last but not least, I just added so that some some of you might maybe wondering, the average yearly income, which is not the salary, the income of people in some major country playing Magic right now, and I took some contenders that are starting to play Magic right now, more and more, like South Africa, China, and the Philippines, which is actually crazy. Like the people right here, they used to play Magic much less than this a couple of years ago, and now it's booming, skyrocketing, and these countries have a lot of people, so definitely keeping an eye on that. So yeah, and as you see, unfortunately, we do not share the average yearly income at all. Like it goes from 1 to close to 20-25 in terms of difference, and I didn't put all the countries here. So you cannot argue that even if you have the unique price, the universal price, which does not exist as we saw, the problem is you're going to talk with people who don't have absolutely anything in common with you when it comes to saying, I can afford this price or not. Even though you didn't even look at the individual situations, which is going to make even things worse. So actually players, they don't pay for their final deck, they either pay for genuine brand new products or secondary market products. So for Magic the Gathering, the minimum things you can buy is a card, and you hit the wall when there's not possible reduction on the minimal amount you can spend. And the atomic purchase is buy one card. You cannot go further below that. There's no way you can split it in two, and nobody really signs a loan agreement for collectibles. Nobody goes for borrowing money or else to buy Magic cards. It just doesn't exist. So that's a problem. And also we also add a small slightly uptick in value for getting the card, which could be whatever, shipping, traveling, if you have a local game shop that's rich with cards, if you use post things because you buy on secondary market on the internet and people send the cards through post offices, whatever, the raw price of the cards is not what you pay for. If you were to build one deck today and you unfortunately have 100 cards with 100 different sellers, the final price for your deck, even if it's just 50 cents per card, is going to be much more than $50 for the total. It's going to be way more than this. It's going to be actually, for 50 cents, it's going to be probably 1 to 1.5 to maybe twice the price, to maybe 3 times the price of your cards. So this is also penalizing the extremely small cards, so we need to take that into account. So yeah, and yet we know that the deck, the final price are symbolic. Every one of you, me, hello there, Runmate, every one of us knows that in the end, when we are done with paying the cards, we look at the decks, even when they are not pimped and foiled, and we're like, how much is this deck? Because we just browsed it with our fingers and we're like, I've seen a couple, like 10 cards that are really expensive. How much is this deck? And you realize we've been playing with some people who have competitive decks that are worth $500 United States dollars, and some of them are worth 15,000 United States dollars. And believe it or not, the 15,000s one are not necessarily going to be crushing the others. So it's not even related to winning. It is somehow related to winning, but the final price for the deck is something that we use as a beacon, as a flag, as a boundary for final pricing. Like we asked ourselves, how much are the decks going to be? So in short, just to sum up this problem, because this is almost over right now, we are not answering, when you're thinking about the money, you're not answering how much do things cost. You're trying to answer how much do you want to pay versus how much can you afford. And the thing is, this is completely psychological, social, economical, and impossible to solve as is. There's no rational ground for that, so it's a fucking impossible inferno to try to solve this. So, to do so, we have to make arbitrary choices. This is not like what we do for the strategic points, which is yet arbitrary, but based on experience, mostly stable, and based on a global appreciation of what a magic card is, we have to make much more arbitrary choices when it comes to price. So what have we decided? We decided to only care about the card prices individually, because you cannot have players worry about, one, the points, and two, the money value, the financial constraints of the cards. Think about them at the same time, build them with two different units that would be in competition. That would be crazy. Nobody wants to build like that. I mean, it's super hard. You cannot build a deck with both. Is it going to be legal or not for points? And is it going to be over a certain price or not? So we have to only look at the cards one by one. We chose Scryfall as a gathered source of truth, and Scryfall reflects TCG player in United States dollar and card market in euro. So we mix those in euro United States values, as we call the final M value for money value. We just retain the average money value for 30 iterations. We only remember the average of the last 30 times we checked, and so far we decided to check every 24 hours, which means 30 days of price remembrance. So this is going to prevent the last moment spikes on building decks, like a couple days before the announcement is made or after the announcement is made. So if the price changes for good, it will change. If the price changes suddenly, it will be less reflected in the M value. Also, the M values, just so you don't panic, they are set upon announcement date and time, and they are fixed for the whole announcement duration. Actually, they are fixed until the end of time. So if you just go back in the calculator and use a previous announcement, you will see the prices that were recorded a long time ago. So you can, if your deck was valid for the April to May announcement, it will be forever valid in April to May announcement, right? So we don't pick up prices fresh all the time, so you don't have to sweat about that, all right? Some subtle thing we had to, again, just for the commander swap, we had to choose to not have commanders affected by financial constraints. That's the only exception, because when we're going to open the quadruple formats, that would be not a problem, not a consideration, because there's no commander. But the commanders, yeah, they have to remain unaffected. Because if you were to build with two different sets of rules, that would change the budget for your commanders. Some commanders would be banned, like the worst of them would be Sliver Queen. Sliver Queen is something like $280, so it's already blowing up the budget. You cannot have Sliver Queen as a commander if you choose to affect the value of commanders. And if one commander is freshly printed, it is under 4 mana value, it is even worse of it, like a partner or something. And also it's rare to find or expensive. You won't be able to build with it. So it's not really what we want to do. We want to make sure that you can choose your commander and choose 100% of them. So we want to look at the prices of commanders, and you can do that with Scryfall. I can give you the search key. You will see for yourselves. It's about Sliver Queen, a couple others, like 2 of them that are slightly between $50 and $100, and then it shrinks to the bottom. We got 50 to 60 commanders that are between $30 and $75 or euros, and then it goes down like considerably. Like most of the commanders, I think it's 95% of them are below 97% of them actually are below 30 euros or dollars. So it's pretty reasonable, and a couple commanders can be played with that. But yeah, if you have to pay for something expensive, that means you only got to do it for your command zone, and only if you play an expensive commander. So most of them are not expensive, so it's fine. All right. All right, so be reassured, your building will not be affected by that as for the command zone. So you pick up a commander, you get your budget, and when you switch to financial constraints, your commander budget will not change. So the end value points can make your final card points skyrocket to crazy values. Like, I don't remember, but Black Lotus is something like 4,000 points now, something. It doesn't matter. Okay, this is not something you can negotiate with players, because you cannot say to people, yes, you want to play, no, you don't want proxies, but you cannot afford the cards. Something is blocking, this is a dead-end situation. There's no going out. There's absolutely no logical way of getting out of the situation. So yes, some cards become completely de facto banned, but they are banned because nobody who wants to play with those rules can afford them. That's the key. So when the cards go beyond a certain value, yes, they are banned in formats when you don't want cards to go beyond a certain value. That's normal. So it's the only reason and the only way you can play AeonShift with certain cards being completely impossible to include. So yes, it would mean that you would need for I don't know, I think you would need to wait for 2,000 years for Black Lotus to be playable with the current price. Good luck with that. I don't think we'll be here in 2,000 years, but yeah. And it's actually something reasonable. Like, if you didn't want to pay for like more than $10 for months on cards, and you were to put that on a Black Lotus, well, that's the time you would need to pay for Black Lotus by putting in $10 per month. So, yeah. So the cards retain their format-related points, which is the strategic values that you know already. That doesn't change, but they also get the end values points added based on the trend of their prices. So we set the end value points to a very slightly exponential increasing value, which means really we're punishing the most expensive cards a little more than the less expensive ones. And players, when you want to use the calculator, you just gotta check. It's a yes/no switch for players and tournament organizers to see if you want to use it or not. So the points, if you're using the financial constraints, is given. Some of you may want to wonder how it works. Is the sum of the highest of the two, end value points or strategic points, plus half the other. So you see, it cannot be one of them winning on itself. So yeah, and we round all the values down to avoid overwhelming constraint, like all the cards would cost 1 point or more, etc. So let me illustrate that to you. Imagine you have a card that you know today is 50 points. I don't even know if we have a card that's worth exactly 50. I failed to remember. I think there was a Mox Sapphire is 50 something, I don't remember. But yeah, let's just admit it's not this card. It's a card that is just worth a little. So it's not really too expensive, and we set the end value points to 15. It's not the card value in euros or dollars, right? It's just the end value points once we apply the formula. So what we do is we keep the highest of them, 50, and we add the divided by 2 floored, which means the lowest value rounded down, are the others. So 15 divided by 2 is 7.5, so it's going to be 7, so 50 plus 7 is 57. And if it's the other way around, like we have evaluated that a card is worth 8 points, like Force of Will, maybe something like that, I don't remember all the points from memory, but it's a very expensive card that is worth 50 points of M value. Again, 8 divided by 2 is 4, so what we do is we add 4 plus 50 equals 54. That's how it works. Pretty simple, and you don't get to care about that. This is just in case you wonder how we do the calculations, because it's in the source code that is open source. Reminding you, the calculator is open source, so some people might want to retro-engineer that. So what does it do as a result? So I tested about 50 decks. Out of the 50 decks I tested, the original values as given by Scryfall, which means as given by Card Market or TCG Player, whichever has prices and whichever is legal, we exclude for pricing the illegal versions, we exclude some very weird versions and stuff like that, like the gold border and stuff like that. So we only get realistic values for the M values. And as you can expect, right now for Dual Commander, we have decks that I tested from 600 to 11,000 euro United States. It's not a currency, it's a mix of currencies, okay? But so it's an average of euros and dollars, all right? This should be something you already know. That's the average price of the Commander decks for Dual Commander. So first of all, I went through the decks and I say, all right, we're gonna go from the top and I'm going to prune and remove all the most expensive cards until the deck becomes legal. So bling, 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 I go down to the bottom until I am inside the budget. Exactly at the budget, all right? So when I just have 1 or 2 points to remove, I remove a 1 or 2 points card, so I go exactly on the budget. Which means I end up with something like 63 to 97 cards, because some decks only had a couple cards that were overpriced. And the result is between 180 to 280. But wait! This is not a legal deck. You still need to go to 100 cards. And you want to add more cards, but all the cards you add might have some value. So actually, for 10 or 15 of them, I tried to really finish building, and I have to make a lot of more choices. So first thing you know, you have to remove even more cards. Until you remove the cards, and then you add the lowest value cards, which don't have too much strategic value or too much financial value, and that gives you that something which is about 80 to 100 to 180 euros and dollars. I believe I forget the euros on this one. It's just the same currency. So I don't know what you guys think, but when I looked at what other people did, when it comes to financial constraints worldwide, like we say the DC 500 in Brazil, the 100 commander dollar commander in United States, when I looked at what the German people do, I found a handful of people with a website that tried to limit the budgets, and they all ended up, that's funny actually, they all ended up to a value between $80 to $100. So I think we fall into the case of something that players should be happy with. So, of course, I haven't tested like 1,000 decks. I don't think you can build a $250 or euros deck that is legal in Dual Commander. Maybe it's possible, but I don't think you can. But it's worth it. I mean, yeah. And also the final decks I had, believe it or not, I really don't think that the final value being from simple to twice or even 3 times the value, I don't think it changes the power and the win rates of the decks from fighting one to another. So I think it's pretty good in the end. And this is really beta again. Remember guys, it's just a beta test. We're gonna have lots of feedback on that. So what happens if you put one card that is extremely pricey? This is the case we wanted to limitate. So last time I checked with the last values I put into the calculator, 250 euro is already a blocker. If you put like, what is it? 250 should be a plateau, something like that. I think it's gonna be a plateau or maybe a savanna, I don't know, plateau, savanna, or scrubland, whatever. I don't think I think scrubland's already more expensive, but any of these, and you cannot build a deck, which is good. When you ask people what is blocking you from building a deck of Dual Commander, everyone has the answer. First of all, the 10 dual lands from Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, Revised. First of all. Then there is 10 other cards, a group of 10 other cards. Candelabra, Moat, and that's for classic legacy dual commander. But remember, in AeonShift, you can play Black Lotus, Mana Crypt. You can play Mana Crypt is not that expensive right now, actually. The original Moxen. You can play Tamok. You can play even a Juice Engine that is completely crap, is 108,000. You can play Tabernacle of Penrevel. You can play Mistress Workshop. All of these cards are crazy expensive. So, job done. None of these can be included in the deck. So, if you live in a place where you want to play casually with people and you don't want to be thinking that you can win with money, that's good. That's your choice. So again, not sure. As you have seen, this is based on a lot of very, very unstable variables of psychological effects. And like I told you guys, you have to understand it's impossible to determine something universal with the card's value, but I think we did a pretty good job on that. So I also tested, like, when you want to build with 100 cards, it's really hard actually to include a deck when in a deck a card that is worth more than 50. It's doable, but it already raises the number of points to, I don't remember, 25, 23 of them, even if it has no strategic value, right? Which is, I don't know, a Galef's Cauldron, maybe, I don't know. So, some cards that would be worth a lot of money, but that we didn't rank so far as crazy. If you do that, yeah. But on the other side, if you have a very pimped foil, whatever, super expensive version of a card, like you have a serialized or whatever, fine, you can include it, but the base version of your card is not something that prevents you from playing. You're free to pimp, which you can do in Pauper, for example. You can play Pauper and Peasant and pimp, it's fine. But it's all on you. It's not on the game rules, okay? This is not something we have to take into account. All right, so finally, this mechanic will, of course, work with any further format we release. So that's a huge step inward for AeonShift that we have released right now. This is the product of a lot of time, thoughts, and on the phone and Discord and stuff. We had to think a lot to do that, and we think this is something we wanted to do from the start. As a personal note, those of you who know me probably, and the rest of the team is thinking the same as I do for most of them. Let me tell you, like I said, 5 years ago, we already had this kind of discussion with the community of Dual Commander, and none of us, or very few of us, wanted to hear about the price of cards. None of us wanted to try, and we thought it would be like a trap. And also the answer was, this is not a problem. That was our answer. And when banning a couple cards, we truly talked to each other like, we have to ban them. But never, ever, ever did we truly ban a card for price. You're going to ask me, what about Time Twister? When we banned Time Twister, was in 2022, I think, or 2021, I don't know. We banned Time Twister because imagine we have, which is true, 100,000 people playing Dual Commander right now in the world. If 5% people play blue with Time Twister, that's just 5,000 people playing Time Twister, and no proxies, right? So what happens if these people all want to play a tournament at the same time? There are not 5,000 copies of Time Twister available in the world. So the problem was not just the price. Of course, the price comes with that. The problem was the card availability. Like when a card is even less printed than the minimum metagame players want it to be, then you're pretty fucked up. You have to just say that maybe the card should be unplayable. So that's something we took care of with proxies right now, and we took care of that problem by not having the problem with the financial constraints. So as usual now, it's your time to crack the game, and show us what you can do with financial constraints or not. And if you think it's worth a try, because I know this will echo very differently to some people in the world. As you see in this chat, some people truly don't care about that. Because they have money, they have a job, they have a stable situation, and they live in a rich country, in short. And some of the people don't have all these privileges, and they're like, we love magic, but magic truly doesn't love us. So we had to set that up. We're trying, at least. We're trying to do something, and we think the result is pretty good. So yeah. All right. If you guys have any form of a question, hello, I'm here. So, wow, you guys have been chatting a lot. I got two screens, which is why I'm looking at this way. So, the only problem on Discord in 2 months is having to wait several months after the set's release for cards to be playable, the correct number of points. Yes! In short, this is a topic that has been raised a lot. And I understand, we understand, the whole team understands why this is a problem to you. So, people said it's a mistake, and you're right, it's a mistake. It's a mistake that we purposely do. If you have been looking at my previous conversation from last year's, we have a problem when a new card is out, it's busted, and no regulation is made. Some people said, hey, players should be playing, and the metagame will adapt, which is normally what should happen. But we got less people playing Dual Commander than the rest of any formats around the world. And two, I don't think we have the same kind of super competitors who erase and change the metagame all the time like we have in other formats. We have a different population, more casual and slower. Nobody wants to burst out 100 cards of the deck every week, but in some formats, this is possible. Like Modern, for instance, or Legacy, whatever. So we took that into account. And when something is out like that, you have two things to do. The first thing is you cannot let the card be 3 in nature and burst everything out, create crazy games and disgust people from playing, but you need to have the players see the card in action. Because if they don't see that, they're like, are you theory crafting 100%? First of all, yes, we are. And second, we need to let the cards in the wild, because you know the card is going to be busted, but is it going to be truly busted? Because the whole ecosystem is complex, and it's a whole matter of complex systems dynamics. If you Google that, you will see what I mean. It's a whole domain of science that is dynamic complex systems. So you cannot predict what it's going to be, and you cannot predict how long it's going to be. So you have to let the players play. It's easy when the cards are similar to another card. Like if tomorrow, like there's a new Dual Lotus that is printed, we know it's going to be the same as the other, or more or less, so it's going to be played, whatever, so we don't want it. What if we have, an old case, a new Ragavan that is even more busted than Ragavan Nibble Pilferer? And you look at it and you're like, wow, this is a strict upgrade to Ragavan. Is it going to be busted? Yes, you know it is. But sometimes it's a whole new card and you're scratching your head because the effect is really random, so you cannot know. So what we did is we had to make an arbitration between the players need to play the card, but not too much. So we have set the value to something very high, because not all of the cards are worth 10 points or 30 points as commanders. This is just to prevent the hype that comes from new cards, because we are against this hype, which is why we do this mistake. We do not want to support the hype of whatever is new, but yet everything that is new has to be played just equally to the others. So that is a problem. And also, like I've been telling you in the chat on Discord, the thing that you should measure is, let's go to MTG Top 8 or anyone. Just pick up like the 100, the 1,000 last posted lists. And get the latest card, the latest printed cards, and wonder how many of these cards were printed since our last announcement. Go and check for yourself. You will see and be amazed. The average is 0. It's from 0 to 3, maximum 3, because Wizards of the Coast is doing some really crazy power creep, not that much. They don't break everything in one set. The most breaking sets are Modern Horizons, and Modern Horizons don't have all the cards be played instantly. Some of them are busted, but it takes 6 months for them to start going up in value and be played and more and bust up the metagame. So you can't say just because it's new, it's got to be immediately played and then regulated, because we wanted to see it played somehow so we can rank it, but not too much. So we had to set a fail-safe value that is way beyond what the values should be. Remember, all the commanders that go out have a default value of 100 for budget if they are not partner abilities, less than 4 mana values and stuff like that. And that's not enough. Like Urza busted the metagame when he was out, and that was a problem too. Ragavan was only 1, so it would be seriously handicapped right now. It would start with a lot less budget, but it's not going to last forever. So we did that very bad mistake, knowing it's a mistake, knowing it's frustrating, but actually you should wonder how many of the cards are truly played when they are new. And the answer is not that many. Usually, if you have a very stable deck, you take 1 or 2 cards, that's it. And maybe you should, if you want to include a new card, it's not just going to be like a random upgrade. This is very rare. You're going to have a card that is really probably busted. So you have to remove another card that is just probably slightly less busted. That's what you're going to do. So usually, you don't change the points just for the points. If you include a 10 points card unranked, instead of another card, you're going to remove 10 points of your deck, and that's the price you have to pay for instability. So this is why our mistake is, you're right. When you analyze it and you look at the value, you're like, you guys are wrong. Yes, we are wrong. And we know about that. We know we're wrong because there is no possible right value for that. So, will it be possible to play without the M value? Of course, I said it. You just got to check. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Yeah, it's all on you. The global choice is on your playgroup. If you are in a playgroup, it's with your friends and you have a voice too. If you play with your friends, and if there is another source of authority for whatever the game rules are going to be, like a tournament, the tournament organizer sets the rules. And if they want to use proxies, they'll use proxies. To be honest, I have no idea, absolutely no idea, if people are going to prefer playing with proxies or financial values. I don't know. What I know is, just ask yourselves, guys, do you really want to play a game, Magic or else, with original content, the cards, or fake ones, just whatever, or Sharpies, like you take planes and you say whatever moat you're gonna play on that? You really want to play with planes that's written moat, and you draw a dragon pinned to the ground, like non-flying creatures cannot attack, and you just do that on yourself? That is not correct. You don't want to play with that. You like Magic. I mean, what's the coolest thing in Magic that remains right now? The art. The art and the original card. The fact that you have an original card in your hands. So, I don't know. If you really truly like that, then probably you're going to play with financial values. And if you don't care about that, proxy is going to be a way. I don't know. What I know is you have the choice. And also, you can have no financial constraints and play with original cards only. Because right now, the good thing is if you want to play without financial values, without financial constraints, and you're like, yeah, you can include anything. Sure, you can include a Black Lotus. Just tell me, guys, in the chat, how many of you have successfully built a deck with Black Lotus? I know. I tried. We tried a lot before releasing the points. I've been almost to a point where in a deck that was a bad deck, I had a very stupid deck with no expensive card, and I was about to include Mock Sapphire. It was a blue deck with no expensive card. That's the only time I almost made it. I have a deck which is possible to include a Mana Crypt in, but it's super hard, and I think that's all. It turns out it's super hard to include Mishra's Workshop or Library of Alexandria. As you know, it's on Magic Arena right now. It's harder than it looks. So first of all, you don't want to rush on these super expensive cards. Not all of them. Some of them, yes. Obviously, Black Lotus is super easy to include. But it's hard with the points. So you don't really want that. So I think we're wondering and we're asking ourselves questions that are more theoretical than practical, because all the cards that are expensive, turns out they're busted and they break the game. So we have a lot of points associated with them. So normally that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, you just tell me what card that is super expensive have you been blocked because you wanted to include it. I have an Animal deck which plays Gaze Cradle right now, and just like Thanos, what did it cost you? Everything. I just had to remove everything in the deck to include the Gaze Cradle, because Gaze Cradle is busted, but by doing so, I just wrecked half of the deck, which is whatever it's costing actually. So yeah. So yeah, I can't play, but first I need to win lottery. So no, you don't need to, because you got two options now to not even have to pay lottery. Dude, if you want to play like with financial constraints, you're going to spend more money playing the lottery than buying the cards. So good luck. Can we play the format without thinking about finances at all? Well, this is not an AeonShift question. This is Magic question. We don't do anything about that. We don't print the cards. We don't make the cards. Wizards does. I don't like the financial restriction myself, and so do I not. I swear I hate myself when I proxy cards. Even when I have ordered the cards, they are somewhere in the post office or traveling to my home, not received yet, but I just want to test the deck by just using pieces of paper, stuff like that. I hate it. I just don't want to do that. But I admit that sometimes it's worth doing so. Like before playing AeonShift, I sold all my Chrome Moxes, and Chrome Mox has been skyrocketing in value, so I have to buy one again. And I don't have the finances for that every month right now, so it turns out I am concerned by that as well. Who would have thought so? So yeah. Some cards should be only for collection, reserve list should be for hidden in formats for me. Yes and no. The price makes them collectible only. The stupidity of the scalpers from 1994, 1995 that just made their behavior transform Magic into the creation of the reprint policy, which is, as you know, the reserve list and the text that goes along with it, but is unbreakable now and will never be breaked in the future. Don't think about that for a second. It's not what we think. There are still enough things in the world to be played like that. And some people have this at home and don't have any home for these cards, but are willing to sleeve them again. Some of them, most of them actually, end up playing these cards in a cube. I got one friend who's playing on the team, actually, on the AeonShift team, who's played a powered cube with the Power 9 inside, a real Power 9 inside the cube, which is the last and honestly the best place to play a Power 9, the cube. But now we try to make a second best place to play the Power 9, which is AeonShift, so you have to make choices. You will not play the whole Power 9, and again, if that is your thing, you know you will never buy the card, just get yourself a cool proxy and that's all. I am actually impressed by someone who created a list, wants to play a game and say, by shuffling, by the way, my deck contains a Time Walk. For real? How? How did you cut the points to include a time walk? I did. Let's play. I think that's pretty impressive. I am more impressed by the strategic values, but when the guy is going to say, by the way, I have an original unlimited time walk, and here it is, and I'm like, wow. I have some expensive cards as well, but of course I'm excited when I play the expensive cards as well, but I don't mind. I don't mind when someone has expensive cards that I don't have. It's fine by me. I know I'll never buy them, and I'm fine with that. Is it possible to toggle off the M value and play a format that is unaffected by finances? Absolutely. I thought it was transparent. Let me repeat one last time. When you play the game, you can play with original, unaltered cards. No proxies. Okay, that's just genuine magic cards from the boosters. Right? Second, you can play the same with proxies. How many of them is on you, is on your playgroup, on the TO, whoever wants it to be. And third, you can play with the first solution, only original, unaltered, no Sharpie, no proxies, no whatever, and especially no fake cards. None of these. But when you build your deck, before you even grab the cards and ask yourself, oh, how expensive it's gonna be, you don't, because the game will take care of that for you, and your deck will be limited in the value of each card you have to spend for. For each card you want to include, the calculator will just add skyrocketing points. So at some point you will not have to spend some expensive money on expensive cards. Save the money for something that is more useful to you if you don't have it. Okay. So it's mostly tied to the reserve list. That is wrong. We talked about that for the phase 1 launch, and I reminded you about that recently. I made an analysis on the first 1,000 cards playing Dual Commander from MTG Top 8, and I have bad news for you. The reserve list cards right now are under the value of what you need to invest for the last 2 years. So what was out for the last 2 years is going to cost you more than the reserve list part of your decks. I'm sorry, this is wrong right now. And you think about the top played cards, really? The top played cards? Top played cards is not what you think it is. It's most of it is a dual land, and the dual lands they rank from 40% to 30% of inclusion in decks. They don't even get to be played in all the decks where they are legal. Some of people just don't include them. And if you play a bicolor deck, you don't even need them. It works. You can spend all your life and points using fetch lands. By the way, don't do that. I've seen too many people like, yeah, I got an aggressive deck. I don't mind fetching. Dude, you're playing mono white. Yeah, but I can cleanse my deck from all the basics. And you're like, don't do that. You basically started the game at 70 life points for no reason because you use 3 fetch lands. That's stupid. So actually, that was the case, but you're not up to date. Right now, the latest cards from the last 2 years and soon the last year will cost you more with the post office taxes and stuff that what you invest into the reserve list. That is going to be the case. The difference is there are no cards that is newly printed that goes to $600. Yes, but it's not the only problem you have. The problem you have is you're going to keep updating your list. And right now, go to MTG Top 8, look at the list, and look at the top played cards. Sure, for the first 5-6 pages of 20 slices, you will see Earthcraft, you will see Survival of the Fittest, you will see Intuition, you will see lots of cards like that. But first of all, you will also see Demonic Tutor, which is still expensive despite the 1,000 reprints. You will see a lot of different cards. Suddenly, right now, we have a deck that plays Agatha's Cauldron. That is extremely expensive for no reason. Did you look at the price of One Shitai from Avatar: The Last Airbender? Badgermole Cub? You really did you get one Badgermole Cub? I think I'm not gonna check right now. I think it's still between $35 to $40 for a card. Dude, this is a tenth of a Taiga. Yes, it's a tenth. But you got to buy this 10 times a year because there's going to be another one, another one, another one. So if you want to play the same deck over and over and never change any card, be blind to it, yes, your problem is going to be investing in Gas Cradle, which is forbidden in most formats actually, but still legal in AeonShift. So yes, if you just do that, your problem is going to be playing the dual lands. By the way, remember, the dual lands in our formats with an S, they are all worth more than 0 points. And we have 2 right now. This is not cheap. And the fetch lands associated with them are worth twice. So you cannot just go in and slam your 5-color or 4-color mana base. You don't even get to slide in your 5 fetches. 4 fetches is already a lot. One of the first things I did when updating my list is finally get rid of the fetch lands, which, by the way, don't tell it too much, is a good thing for play. Okay? For gameplay, less fetch lands is not really less strategy, it's less time loss. It's great for everyone, it's less shuffling, more playing, it's just better for everyone. And it's also reducing the need for original dual lands. Your problem is more with the others, the cards that follow. We have ranked them so far, but some of them are not worth a lot of points, like Moat, for instance, is not really insane. Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale is kind of really good when it's played. Time Walk is insane, and probably the most insane of them, the cheapest of them, is Ancestral Recall. You don't need a brain cell to activate and play Ancestral Recall. You gotta have 1 blue mana. It's crazy. Ancestral Recall requires no brain cell. It's so good there's no deck that plays blue that doesn't want to play Ancestral Recall. So yeah, it's different for each card, but don't worry about that. I've been through your place, and I know every time I build a new deck, I have to buy a fucking dual land, and I know it's gonna be the most expensive card in the deck. But at the end of the day, if you want to buy a whole new deck of cards you don't have, but because they change a lot, it's gonna be 1/3 of your deck price, if not more. If not less, sorry. And the problem is you're gonna have to pay a lot for post office services in addition to the cards. You don't think about that, but look at how much you really paid for the cards. If you have a 800 cards deck with a Taiga, like Ralph and Mickey, for example, red-green deck with only 1 dual land, that dual land is not going to be the final price of your deck. It's a combo deck that doesn't cost a lot, but yet, if you sum all the cards that you don't have, like the Commander that just freshly printed in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you have to buy the cards, which is not free, it doesn't come from 0. You also have to pay the shipping, and when you pay all that, you will have to pay more than that, much more than the Tiger. You're in a really cornered case if you want to play 3 new cards. But yeah. And also remember, once the announcement has passed, the card becomes legal. And it's something we need and we want to. It's for mental sanity of everyone. We want people to be able to just leave the game for a couple of weeks or months, come back and don't have their deck outdated. We are an eternal format, which is what we do. 4 new cards in a deck, that's insane. I'm sorry, I have been modifying my decks for 18 years in Dual Commander. There's never been a moment where between 2 announcements I have 4 different copies into a deck. Never. Not that I don't trust you, but 4 is insane. So it's a corner case probably like that. How to choose and build a deck in advance, knowing validation will maybe different. Could have different point caps or might allow certain rules like no loss, etc. Especially considering we always play without proxies, only with regular cards. How can we build a deck beforehand? The point systems may change from one tournament to another. First of all the rules for Magic the Gathering, each format change on a 2-month basis. If you're used to what we used to do with Dual Commander, you remember it was 3 months, then 2 months, then whatever comes, plus regular announcements every 2 months. By the way, which is it's what we're going to do now. The next announcement will not be for June, it will be for July. I have to publish it, by the way. at the end of this talk. So I would say that maybe you didn't look at what we do, but most of the points don't change. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you guys about something that I will post on Discord. We added an announcement comparator on the website. So you can use two announcements, pick one, pick the second, any of them, not just the last one and the one before, which is what you can do by default, but you can take any two announcements and it will tell you the whole difference in points between the two announcements. So that will help greatly for building. You can also store now the whole URL of your deck, so long URL. You can copy it, save it to whatever place you want, slam it in the calculator, it will just reopen, recalculate the points, and you will see if it's legal or not. So that is going to help. Most of the cards that we have ranked for the first months were in beta test. Remember, we just started in March, on March 3. We are now on May 4. Which is only 2 months after release, so be cool. We're trying our best. But actually, we have added over 80 cards since the game was launched, and we have only changed the value for 15 of them or 20 of them out of 700. So most of the cards are pretty definitive in value. They're never definitive, but they're stable. So if you tried for the last 2 months, you would see that the deck you had is going to be legal most of the time. And by the way, we made the calculator so that you can use a previous announcement to check over time. You can change if you unroll the customized formats. You'll see the very last option is whichever announcement you want to check against. By default, it's the latest, but if you want to go back in time and check against the original announcement, you will see all the breakdown of your points. And values and prices and stuff. So that's gonna be cool. You can reverse engineer your deck to the beginning. So we have less changes than other games, and we just have structural rules that create changes all the time. So yeah, different point caps. That is an awesome question. We have that in mind since start. First of all, players need to accommodate with the game rules. Then, maybe we should communicate one day and say, get your own p-value. The original point capacity, when you refer to, is a p-value. Grab your own and create your tournament. Maybe 100 and all reference system is good to 100, but players will say, nah, it has to be 80. Or it has to be 150. You can go from 0 to infinite. So if you find a better p-value, and if players seem to accommodate with that, we'll just add it to the possibilities. But so far, we intend to have 3 of them. If you look at the calculator, and if you looked at my previous talk about that, you will see we intend to have 3 of them: light, standard, and power. But so far, we have to stabilize the game with standard play, and we think the game rules are already hard enough for some people to understand, so that if we also have p-value modifications, people are going to have a brain explode. So we are thinking about those, but right now we're going to have different p-values for every sub-format, which is light play, standard play, and power play. We just don't want people to take the highest all the time, to play with more power and go back to whatever the problem is with Legacy Dual Commander right now, which is unlimited power to anything. That's not going to be good. So, yeah. No loss. I don't know what you mean with no loss. Like dry rounds? Dry rounds is okay. It's on tournament rules, and that's not related to AeonShift. It depends on who you want to play to. Like we had... a Team Trio Unified Dual Commander Cup in France right now, like yesterday and the day before yesterday, which is amazing. And 56 teams of 3 competed one against each other. And they won with pools. So you were drawn in in a random draw. So you would see team A, B, C, D would be team 1, 8, 17, and 56. So that'd be pool of 4. They go with first day match and then returning match on the afternoon. They take the best 2 of these 4. They advance to day 2, and day 2 was a dry round, which means you have a team trio game against a team that is in a new tournament. You're paired against that team, and whoever wins advances to the next round, and the others are eliminated. But there was a rebound tournament, which automatically, for free, had them included in the tournament on round 2, then 3, then 4. So that's a pretty good game system that they did. So no loss is actually interesting. I mean, if you mean like no loss at all, like a really true best of one game, which is you only play one game and whoever wins wins. That's crazy, never heard of that, but if you want to do that, why not? That's bold. Especially considering we always play without proxies, only regular cards. Like I said, lots of people still do that. I think you're still the majority of people, like 50 to 60% people play with original cards only, but it's just getting, grinded by the proxy community, whoever it is. Yeah. And also you asked, how can we build beforehand if the point system may change from one tournament to another? First of all, your tournament has a limited time, and just like it's always been for Dual Commander since 2007 to today, I know because I wrote both of the rules from 2014 to 2025 for Legacy Dual Commander and the new rules. The rules are defined as so: when you start your tournament and the registrations are locked in, you get a set of rules that will be used until the end of your tournaments. We had the case because we had some online leagues with people playing on, evenings and weekends, and they were free to organize each of themselves, for whenever they had the time to play the games, which means they did 5 rounds and they had 1 week to play the rounds. So I think it was 6 rounds. So the tournament spanned over 1 month and a half. So very often it was just spanning over an announcement. They tried to do that in the middle, but sometimes we had emergency announcement right in the middle, and the answer is always the same: your deck is valid the day it's logged in. Same question for Magic Online, that's what they do. Magic Online locks in your deck when you start, and you apply for a tournament, which is a league or a challenge, they call it. Whatever you want to play, if you paid for that, you registered. Upon registration, the game, Magic Online, checks if your deck is legal or not, and then you can finish your deck. It's the same on Magic Arena. If there's an announcement, usually they don't do that, but if there's an announcement over the time when you want to play a standard league, when you lock in your decks, usually that time frame, but if there were to, whatever was legal when the tournament started remains legal until the end of the tournament, because otherwise it's a nightmare. So don't worry about that. If you had that for your deck, anyone's deck, everyone's deck, for the tournament when it started, and if it was legal, all of the decks that remain legal on day 1, on the first second of a tournament, when the registrations are logged in actually, they're legal until the end of a tournament. Even if a tournament lasts 1 year, who cares? That's it. Alright guys, I think I answered all of your questions. If you are still alive, that is more or less the time I had allowed to that talk. Thanks for being here and having all those questions. I hope what we've been releasing today is clear. So again, we've been playing with financial constraints, and that is what we have for today. Believe it or not, is a long time, and especially it was a long time coding. Lots of development. You can check the project on GitHub if you want to use it or help improve the project. Especially we have 11 languages with translations in Japanese, Chinese, Filipino and stuff. So it's a lot of work all the time when we do that. Hopefully, I'm not gonna reveal too much about what we're going to do, but I think the next one, as we have mentioned in the initial talk, should be CEDH. Fingers crossed. But it's a lot of work, and we're going to try to do that and advance to the next set of rules for AeonShift. All right. I'd say see you guys. Thank you for chatting this, and try breaking the game again. And I'll see you up ahead. Next announcement is on the first week of July. Goodbye.